In 1996, Nintendo released a game console called the N64, or the Nintendo 64. I was 4 years old when I first got my Nintendo 64 console. I mean, I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed most of the games that came out with it. But as I grew older, I sort of look back at the N64 and I kind of find it inferior to the later consoles in graphic wise and sound wise and in frame rate wise, because the frame rate on the N64 was not up to par. I mean, you could compare PlayStation 2's frame rate to N64, and PlayStation 2's was better than the N64's frame rate. Which brings me to this. I'm going to be reviewing a game that pretty much is an example of Nintendo 64's unreliable frame rate. What is the game called? Banjo Kazooie. Now, the game may look harmless. I mean, by looking at the box arts, you can see there's a bear and a bird, which I assume is Banjo and Kazooie. And then there's this ugly witch bitch in the background trying to grab at them. I mean, what's her problem? But anyways, this game came out on the Nintendo 64 in 1998, around the same time as games like The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which is by far one of the most overrated Legend of Zelda games of all time, and is another example of bad frame rate. And this game's resolution does not really help it as well, because comparing it to the 360 version, which I have now, I have the 360 version of this game. They did a lot of graphical enhancements to that game, which makes the N64 version look inferior. But nonetheless, I'm going to be reviewing the N64 version of Banjo Kazooie. So, let's get on with the gameplay. Now, the first thing you'll notice is the resolution of this game looks terrible. I mean, I've seen PlayStation games have better resolution than this game. I mean, look at Final Fantasy VII. I mean, look at its resolution. It was 10 times better than that. And there's a lot of N64 games that have this type of resolution, like, for example, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It has terrible resolution. And also, I want to mention that the frame rate of this game is 15, and then it starts to slowly drop, like when you try to go into buildings and stuff in this game. Like, the frame rate will drop, and I just don't get it. Why would it drop just because I go to another area? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And the transitions in this game, like when you're going to another area, is stupid. Like, it has like a puzzle piece going in and out. That's the transition. You might as well put Austin Powers as the transition, and it would make more sense than that. Another thing I want to talk about is the controls. I mean, why do all video games have to rely on the analog? I mean, for movement, I meant. For movement. Why does all games have to rely on the analog for movement? I mean, seriously, the analog controls suck for this game. And it sucks for every other game as well. Why can't you use the D-pad? What's wrong with the D-pad? The D-pad, it doesn't do nothing in this game. It does absolutely nothing. I mean, what's the point of having a D-pad? Why don't you just make the controller analog? Now, another thing I want to talk about is the flying controls in this game. The flying controls is not much. All you do is just, use the analog to move around whatever direction you want to go, and you press A to go up higher. I mean, that's pretty much it. Yet the flying controls can be a bit iffy, especially if you go up like too high, then you can get stuck in air. I mean, wow. I mean, I've never seen bad flying controls for any N64 game except for this one. I mean, in Banjo Tooie, they improved on it. But in this game, I mean, what the fuck? I mean, why? Why do I get stuck in midair while I'm flying? It doesn't happen in real life. I mean, like if I was flying in midair, I don't get stuck up there for no reason. I mean, that shouldn't happen. Another thing I want to talk about is the attack button as well. You press B to attack, and all you get is like this rotating punch, like hoo hoo hoo, and you know, it doesn't really do much. And the enemies, they usually take 2 hits from that. But if you press A and B at the same time, you can get Kazooie to do this peck move, which can take down enemies with 1 hit. So I don't see the point of pressing the B button for Banjo to attack when Kazooie can just attack with a peck. I mean, seriously, that's just gay. And I also want to mention this. There's also levels where you have to transform, and yeah, you have no way of defending yourself against enemies when you're transformed. Only like if you're an alligator. If you're an alligator, you can usually, you know, attack enemies and all that stuff. And if you're a washing machine, which, of course, I don't know why, you know, someone would transform into a washing machine. That's kind of stupid. And there's also stupid transformations in this game, like you could transform into a pumpkin. I mean, wow, that's kind of lame, you know, a pumpkin, like, yeah. And did you know you can also flush down pumpkins in the toilet? Yeah, that's kinda realistic, ain't it? Like, I can flush down a giant pumpkin, like I could put it in my toilet and it'll go directly down in the toilet. Which is something this game belongs. It belongs in the toilet. So yeah. Another thing I want to talk about is the character development for Banjo and Kazooie. There's not much character development in this game. All you know is that they're Banjo and Kazooie. They're a bear and a bird. I mean, Banjo can sometimes be this brave bear, and then he's a coward. I mean, I don't like Banjo. I mean, my favorite character in this game would have to be Bottles, because he hardly shows up. And, you know, that's a good thing. So, I like characters that, you know, aren't much into the story, as, you know, other characters are. Now, the point of this game is to go and rescue your sister. So yeah, there's a princess and a dragon scenario, which except for the dragon, you have, you know, you have the witch, who pretty much does nothing but rhyme. I mean, everything she says is a rhyme, and it gets really, really annoying. I mean, especially much later on in the game, because, like, your head would be like thumping with, you know, pain, like, when will this nightmare end? Oh my god, when will this witch shut up? And all that stuff. So yeah, you will get annoyed by this game, because there's a lot of annoying stuff. Another thing I want to mention is the puzzles in this game are really, really easy. I mean, there's one puzzle where you have to spell your name, and there's another puzzle where you have to try to prevent Christmas lights from getting eaten by crocodiles, and then there's this one puzzle where you have to eat the most worms than the crocodile, and the puzzles are just very, very easy. They're not really challenging at all. So yeah, for this game to be called a puzzle adventure game, it doesn't really take much to think when you're playing this game, because everything is just so easy. This game is easy to beat. So, what do I give Banjo Kazooie overall? I would give it a 2 out of 10, because it's not funny, the puzzles are easy, the controls suck, and the resolution is bad. So, don't play this game. Whatever you do, don't play it. Unless you have an Xbox 360 and, you can play this game, which it still sucks, but it's a lot more enhanced than this game on the N64. So, if you're going to play Banjo Kazooie, play it on the Xbox 360. So, that's pretty much all I gotta say, and that's it.